Shalom, shalom, Israel's brothers are Abba Yallah, coming back at you with another cold cut. I would like to give all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shah. Double honors to the men out there in the highways and byways that's pushing the truth and honesty and sincerity, right? In these last days, keeping the last mighty day of the feast of dedication, hopefully closed out well. Shalom, shalom to the sisters, and that's pushing this truth right, by guiding their households and being an example of how our mighty foremothers was in these last days, right, and the mighty children as well, keeping the commandments, shalom, 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 abiding in their parents' households, abstaining from all the peer pressure that this world has to offer, and abstaining from the lust as well, right, going into the lust of this world, we have to be able to deny ourselves and say no to ourselves and have that discipline and have that rigor over our bodies. We need that in these last days and stand stiffly for the name of the Lord. And that's kind of what this video is going to go into, is saying no to ourselves and having discipline over our bodies in these last days. Because essentially, when you give into your flesh, when you give into your body, what you're doing is you're losing focus because now you're being led by the pleasures of your flesh. And now you're going to start to seek what makes your flesh, seek to what satisfies your flesh instead of what satisfies your spirit. Let's go to Sirach chapter 41. All right, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 41, and I'm going to start at verse 14. My children, keep discipline in peace, for wisdom that is hid and a treasure that is not seen. What profit is in the both? Right. The point I want is my children, keep discipline in peace. You have to keep discipline in peace. You have to have discipline in your members, man. You have to maintain discipline, keep discipline. You can't let discipline flee from you, man. Right? We need to yield our members over to righteousness. Right? When you yield in something, it's like on a highway and you see that little cutoff, is yielding you towards the exit. It doesn't kind of just give you the exit. You're yielding towards that exit, and now you're going up that ramp. You got to yield your members towards righteousness. You got to keep discipline and peace, man. Right? Let's go to Romans chapter 6 and 12. Romans chapter 6 and verse number 12. And it says, let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body, that you shall obey it in the lust thereof. So if you let sin reign in your mortal body, it's going to become your slave master, man. And now you're going to start obeying unrighteousness, obeying your flesh, right? And it says, neither yield your members as instruments of unrighteousness. And as instruments, man, you control instruments, right? You decide what instrument you want to play, right? So essentially, if your members are instruments, that means they can either be instruments of righteousness or instruments of unrighteousness, right? And what else does it say? And it says, unto sin, but yield yourselves unto God as those that are alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto the Most High. So you want to use your members, your arms, your legs, your head, all your members of your body. You want to yield it to righteousness to the Most High, and not to unrighteousness, man. Right? Verse 14: for sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? God forbid. Right. So just because we're not under the judgments of the law, and just because you're not going to get put to death and stoned for committing adultery, that doesn't mean you can get willingly sin and go off. You still want to yield your members to righteousness at the end of the day. Why? Verse 16, know ye not that to whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants you are whom to obey, whether of sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness. Right. So whatever you yield your members to serve, then you're going to be serving that thing, man. You're going to be serving under unrighteousness. But if you serve if you yield your members to righteousness, then you're going to obey righteousness. And the Lord said you can't have two masters. Let's go to Matthew 6 and 24. That's why Paul is like, what you don't know, whatever you your servants to obey, that's who you serve, man. Right? It's Matthew chapter 6 and verse number 24. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and man. So you can't serve two masters, man. You can't serve your flesh and serve the spirit of the Most High. You can't do it because the Most High is not flesh. The Most High doesn't regard flesh. All right, let's get that in Romans chapter 8. All right, it's impossible to please him if you're in the flesh. This is Romans chapter 8 and verse, I'll start at verse 6. For to be carnally minded is death. Carnally is fleshly minded. That's death. But what? Right? What is what it is. Right? But the Lord said, for to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Right? So when you keep a discipline in perfect peace, you got to be spiritually minded. Now read on. But to get to my point, verse 8. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please God. So if you in the flesh, you can't please the Most High. It's impossible because the Most High is not flesh, man. The Most High is a spirit. And you got to use your members to righteousness. Ultimately, Deuteronomy 6 and 25, the keeping of the commandments of the law, which is spiritual, because the law is spiritual. All right. So you can't serve two masters. You can't serve flesh and the Most High. It's like water and fire, oil and water, man. It's the opposites. Can't do that, right? And let's go to Sirach chapter 19 and verse. Actually, let's go to James 4 and 4 to show that. It's the book of James, chapter 4 and verse number 4. What does it say? You adulterers and adulteresses, know you not that the friendship of the world is enmity with the Most High? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of Yahweh. So if you're a friend of the world, if you're a friend of pleasing your flesh and indulging in the lust of your flesh and indulging in the ways of the society in this world, guess what? You're an enemy of the Most High, right? If you're a friend of the world, you have enmity against the Most High, meaning you're opposite, variance, right? Because the Most High is not dealing with the flesh like nature of the society and what they promote, right? And you can't take pleasure in your flesh and take pleasure in sin. The Most High will destroy you, right? Let's go to the book of Sirach 19 and 5. You can't take pleasure in this society, man. The Most High sees that. You taking pleasure, having fun in this society, having fun, pleasing yourself, not saying you don't know how to say no to yourself. Anytime your flesh wants something, you just go ahead and think about pleasing, scratching that lust. Right? This is Sirach 19 and verse 5. Whoso take whoso taketh pleasure in wickedness shall be condemned, but he that resisteth pleasures crowneth his life. So if you take pleasure in wickedness, meaning you constantly feed your flesh, you constantly feed the things that make you want to fulfill that lustful desire, then guess what? The Lord said, yeah, you're not getting that kingdom, man. Because you got to resist those pleasures across your life. You got to resist, feeding your flesh and saying no. All right, you got to know how to say no and not say yes all the time, man. You want to rule over the nations. You want a household, Jake. You want a house. You want a rib. You want a wife and a son or a daughter who want to rule over your household. But brother, you can't even rule over yourself. You don't know how to say no. The Lord said, if you resist pleasures, you crown your life, man. All right, let's go to 2 Peter chapter 2. You got to resist pleasures. All right, this is 2 Peter. Like when Esau say he's resisting the rest, you kind of run up. Hey, Jake, you kind of finesse up out of there, and then you jump 10 gates, man. All right, that's how you got to deal with your flesh. Your flesh trying to grab you up in the chokehold, you kind of flip them down, and and they run the other way. And you Sirach 21 and 1, and guess what? You flee from sin as the face of a serpent. All right, this is 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 13. I'm sorry, verse 12. But these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of those things that are understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption. Why are they going to utterly perish in their own destruction? Because when you're a natural brute beast, what does the animal do? They go off instincts. Whatever they feel like doing, they're gonna do. If they want to eat you, they're gonna go try to eat you. They're gonna, if they're doing that, if they get that instinct, they going on that instinct. When you feed into the lust of your flesh, you're now a beast. You're given to that. You're given into that, right? You're not thinking, right? You're getting that instant, temporary, burning lust to do what you want to do, and now you want to fulfill it. That's all you think about is fulfilling it until that flame subsides, and then comes back later down the line, man. Like a beast, you're gonna perish in your own destruction, man. The Lord said, "Made to be taken and destroyed." Right, verse 13, and shall receive the reward of unrighteousness. And so there's two rewards. There's a reward of righteousness, a crown if you resist pleasures, and there's a reward of unrighteousness. The Lord's bringing two rewards: the kingdom, and guess what? Fire and destruction. Right? As they counted, and it says, as they counted pleasure, right, to riot in the daytime, right? So these people, there's certain people that counted pleasure to riot in the daytime, right? They want to go out, do what they want to do, and they kind of pleasure, right? They just drink all day, right? They essentially just don't say no. They just, or they literally indulge, and there's different festivals and there's different events where they just make it possible for Jake to just do the lust of their flesh all day. You have concerts, right? You got people, in the world, people just go bar hopping and they just try to Jake all on Eve and Eve all on Jake, vice versa, and you got all types of madness, man, in this world. And you have people that take pleasure in that. But what? Spots they are and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceivings while they feast with you. So they have fun. When you sporting, you having fun, right? With your and these people have fun with their own deceivings. They're lying to themselves and they have fun with it, right? Hey, and the Lord said, while they feast with you, verse 14, having eyes full of adultery and cannot cease from sin. So if you're that type of person that gives into the lust of your flesh and can't say no, that means you have eyes full of adultery and that you can't stop from sinning, man. Beguiling unstable souls. Why? Because your actions is leading another person to destruction, right? And the heart they have exercised with covetous practices, cursed children. The Lord calls you a cursed children if you can't get yourself under control, man. You're cursed because if you can never discipline yourself as a soldier of the Lord, guess what? You're just gonna get you're gonna get hit with those flames, man. You're gonna get hit with those nuclear missiles. It's gonna be bound to happen, right? So you can't be taking pleasure in sin like the people of this world, man. You can't be indulging in the lust of your own flesh, deceiving your own self, man. Right? Feasting with others. Let's go to the book of First Corinthians 13 and 11. Ultimately, you have to put away certain things. As a man, for you men out there, when you come into this truth, the Lord called you a man. When you come into this truth, the Lord, you're not a little boy in the eyes of the Lord no more. You are a man. And what do men do? Let's go to First Corinthians 13 and 11. It's the book of First Corinthians, chapter 13, and verse number 11. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. Right? And what does this mean? When you were in the world, guess what? You spoke as a child. You spoke, Jake, the old vernacular that you used to say in the world. We used to kind of just say certain things that you dare not to utter in the truth. Right? You understood as a child. Certain things you didn't really get understanding of. Certain things wasn't really on your mind. Certain things you thought was cool that you wouldn't really try to think about now as you in this truth. Hey, guess what? You thought as a child, man. Right? But when I became a man, I put away childish things. When you put away childish things, you put away the way you used to think, what used to make you have fun, what you used to take pleasure in, right? How you used to speak, what you used to do. You have to put away childish things. And by doing that, when you grow up, you got to learn how to discipline yourself and say no, man. All children want to do is hear yes. Mommy, can I do this? Yes. Okay, mommy, can I do this? Yes. And you start to spoil that child. Now that child doesn't know how to say no. That child doesn't even know how to hear the word no without throwing a temper tantrum. You gotta grow up in this thing and know how to say no. I'm subduing the lust of my flesh. I don't care how I feel, man. You can't care about your own feelings. You can't. Your child may scream and jump up and down. You say, okay, yes, yes, yes. And that it may appease that child for a season until they want something else. And then something else after that. And just something else after that, man. And you're gonna have to keep saying yes. Same thing with yourself, man. You gotta know how to say no. Or you're gonna keep saying yes to yourself into your own destruction. And all you're doing is coddling that child. Right? When you coddle that child, they're gonna grow up into their own destruction. All right. So that's how you gotta discipline your child now, or even on yourself, you gotta discipline yourself now. Right. So when you get better, deeper into understanding, you get built up. Hey, now you're established by discipline, by keeping it in perfect peace. That's why you gotta put away childish things. And we know what it means to be a man. It means keeping these commandments, man. Second Kings chapter 2 and verse 1 on that. Right. Let's go to the book of Job chapter 31 and 1. Let's see what Job did as a mighty man. Let's see what Job did. Right. It's the book of Job chapter 31 and verse 1. I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then shall I think upon a maid? Right? Job said, why should I think about another woman? For what? First of all, I got a wife for some, I got a wife, kids, whatever, man. Why am I thinking about a woman? And brothers, you may be in that position. We got a whole family, but you still think about DMing that woman. That's covetous. So having eyes full of adultery, right? Well, vice versa, women, you want this brother to teach you because he's mighty. You kind of want to get close to this brother, but you already got a husband. Having eyes full of adultery. All right, guess what? The Lord said, Job through his servant Job, he said, I made a covenant with mine eyes. All right. Verse 2. For what portion of God is there from above, and what inheritance of the Almighty from on high? Is not Shalaki, is not destruction to the wicked, and a strange punishment to the workers of iniquity? Doeth he not see my ways and count all my steps? Right? The Most High sees all your ways. He sees your mindset, man. He sees where it is. He sees if you really take pleasure in him or not. The Lord would give you a strange punishment if you're a worker of iniquity. Next you know, your car flip. Right? Next you know, um, uh, you driving your car to slide out of nowhere, and now you hit a pole. And then the Lord gives you a final what's that movie, that Final Destination type of death, man. We just kind of go out. All Jake can say, if you really being spiritual, say, damn, that's judgment. Right? Because the Lord will give you over to that, man. If you can't make a covenant with your if you're making a covenant, it's a contract. You can't breach that contract, man. That's discipline. All right. You can't just say, ah, well, I feel like, doing this day. And you just kind of switch up on yourself. You gotta know how to say no. And guess what? Job put his eyes under a covenant. Why then should I think upon a mate? That's the type of level Job was on, man. Right? Ultimately, Job was focused. That just goes into having focus, man. All right, let me go to Proverbs chapter 4. You're not a child anymore, man. You're grown. Right? If the Lord called you into this truth, the Lord said, grow up. It's time to grow up. It's high time to wake out of sleep, man. All right, this Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 23. Keep thy heart, right, your mind with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a forward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on. So when you let your eyes look on, you having focus. The Lord said you gotta have focus in this truth, man. Right? You can't be a soldier. How you in war and you getting shot at from 16 other people that way? You're in a minefield, not trying to get blown up. You just seen your man's body just get tossed with a bomb, and now you thinking about your damn daughter's birthday party next week, and you wonder if she gonna have the red balloons or the blue balloons, and you think about, damn, when I get back to the platoon, I gotta call her mother, right, and let her know about the cake, because the cake, she don't like chocolate. You're in the middle of war and you think about your damn daughter's birthday party. That's not being focused, brother. You're gonna die. Brother, you're gonna perish. You're utterly gonna be destroyed, either by mind or whatever. You're in war right now. It's a spiritual warfare. You gotta let your eyes look right on. Right? And it says, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Let your eyelids look straight. Right? Ponder the path of thy feet. What does it mean to ponder the path of your feet? Right? How Houdini was from one building to another building, skyscrapers, with one tightrope, and he had to kind of cross it. He had to ponder the path of his feet. You kind of balancing, you making sure you're not falling off. Because if you fall, that's death, man. Then on a physical level, you're not getting back up, right? Unless it's by the grace of the Most High. But if you're 19 stories up, brother, you're gonna die. So you gotta have the same type of mindset when you're in the truth. You can't fall to the left hand or to the right hand, right? And it says, and let all thy ways be established. What does it mean, let all your ways be established? That means you got to prepare. You have to have key preparation. You can't just wake up and do the thing, man. This is war. You have to prepare earnestly in war. All right. So you don't yield your members to unrighteousness by accident, but you prepare out your day. You prepare out what you're gonna do. You prepare on how to serve the Most High and be focused in this thing, right? And it says, turn not to the right hand nor to the left, remove thy foot from evil. But you can only do that if you're focused, if you're knowing how to say no and how to keep discipline in your mind, right? Let's go to the book of Matthew 6 and 22. The Lord said, let thine eye be single, single. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 6 and 22. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. So if the light of the body is your eyes, man, right, on a spiritual level, if your eye be single, if that focus be single, focused on one thing, that whole body is going to be illuminated full of light, man. If you focus on the law, statutes, commandments, you're going to be illuminated with the law. You're going to be illuminated with the spirit of the Lord, man. But what? But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. Why? Because your mind is set on evil. Your mind is set on pleasing yourself. Your mind is set on having pleasures and unrighteousness. That's all you're going to be seeking at the end of the day, like a damn drug addict. So your whole body is going to be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? Meaning that's going to be a huge darkness in you, man. then the Lord gonna have to destroy you, made to be taken and destroyed. Right? Let's get the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and 30. And at the end of the day, man, you gotta glory in tribulation and glory through that furnace. You can't just be giving up battles all the time, man. The Lord said, if you're gonna brag about something, brag about what you're going through. This 2 Corinthians 11 and 30. If I must needs glory, I will glory in the things which concern my infirmities. Right? You want to glory in the things that concern the things that you're going through. Right? That's what Paul did. And then he had patience too. In Romans chapter 5 and 3, that taught Paul experience, man. And Paul had the experience. Now he was able to teach other brothers, right, on how to overcome certain things, how to lead churches. It first started with Paul glorying in his infirmities, man. Right? Let's go to 1 John 2 and 15. It's the book of 1 John, chapter 2, right? 1 John 2 and 15. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the Father, the love of the Father is not in him. So if the Lord said you can't love the world, because as we said earlier, if you love the world, the love of the Father is not in you. It can't be. He's spiritual, the world is flesh. What's going to tell you what's all that's in the world? Verse 16, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Now, the Lord's telling you what you're going to see in this world, what you're going to feel, the tribulations, right? It's going to consist of the lust of the flesh, making your body feel good, the lust of the eyes, making which you're gonna be looking at things that are pleasing to your eyes, and kind of seduces your mind. You're gonna see things that are gonna be pride of life. You want to make your home. You want to be here for another 30 years. You see hope in this American society or in this world. That's not of the Father, but is of the world. But what? Verse 17. And the world passeth away in the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of Yahweh abideth forever. So guess what? The world's gonna pass away in the lust, right? But the Lord said, if you do His will, you're gonna abide forever. So we got to look at the things to come and not the things that are, man. Right? Let's go to the book of Second Ezra 2 and 44. All right, let's get the book of Second Ezra chapter 2 and 44. This is the book of Second Ezra chapter 2. Yep, let me start at verse 42. I, Ezra, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. And in the midst of them there was a young man of high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. So you're going to see Sirach 19 and 5 be played out right here. You're going to see a lot of these people resist pleasures. And it's going to tell you that. Ezra's seeing people getting crowns placed on their heads, man. He's seeing this in action. A whole great multitude of them, right? Verse 44. So I asked the angel, said, Sir, what are these? He answered me and said unto me, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing and have put on the immortal. So they took off the filthy garments, the garments of the world, the Babylonian garments. They took off these things and put on the immortal clothing. What's that immortal clothing? Let's go to Ecclesiastes 9 and 8. What's that immortal clothing? This is Ecclesiastes 9 and 8. Let thy garments be always white, and let thy head lack no ointment. Man. So the Lord said your garment got to be white, period. And you got to have understanding of that ointment, man, on your head. So guess what? The garments they put on was those all white garments, because the Lord said there's a wedding coming. Matthew 25, Revelation chapter 14, man. There's a wedding coming. So these people were prepared for that wedding by having their garments in all white. And how did they get their garments to be all white? It's going to show you. And it says, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of Yahweh, and now are they crowned and receive palms. This then I said unto the angel, What young person is it that crowned them and giveth them palms in her hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of Yahweh, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. So they stood stiffly for the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahshua. When you're stiff, you're not easily pushed, you're rooted, right? You're not easily swayed. The wiles or the trickery of the devil can't get you off your feet. You're 10 toes planted, man. All right? You're resisting pleasures. Sin can't just overrun you. You're not an animal. You're pondering the path of your feet. You're focused. You're letting go of childish things. You're becoming a new person every single day, renewing your spirit every single day. That's what got these people to have crowns placed on their heads, man. And Ezra seen this, and they were getting it from Yahweh Bashim Shah, man. Verse 48. Then the angel said unto me, Go thy way and tell my people what manner of things and how great wonders are the Lord thy God thou hast seen. So he declared it, not just for them, but it's also for our learning now. All right, let's go to the book of Matthew 16 and 24. What did the Lord say about pleasures? Right? What did the Lord say himself? This is Matthew 16 and 21. From that time forth began. So let's see what he was talking to his disciples about. From that time forth began Yahweh to show unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and the chief priests and scribes and be killed and be raised again the third day. So he told them about the prophecies that he had to fulfill, right? About him dying and being raised again. But what happened? Verse 22, then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee. So Peter was like, Lord, what are you talking about? You gotta die for your nation. Lord, what the hell are you talking about? No, you don't gotta die, Lord. You good. You don't gotta do that. But that was Satan, right? Hopped on Peter. Verse 23, but he turned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me. For thou savorest not the things that be of God, but the things that be of men. So Satan savors the things that be of men. So whenever you want to make yourself feel good, and you give into the lust of your flesh, knowing it's wrong and knowing it's a transgression, you're now worshiping Satan. You're now a Satan worshiper. You can't. You're the same. You're no different from people that celebrate pagan holidays. You're no different from Satanists if you're giving into the lust of your flesh every time, right? With no intentions of stopping or just giving it or having discipline in yourself, because Satan savors the things that be of man. When you read Matthew the 15th chapter, all the things that come out of the man that defiles him, the Lord tells you: fornication, adultery, lasciviousness, uncleanness, evil thoughts. All right. So these are the things that defile a man. You gotta self-examine. So okay, what are these different things that I'm struggling with that can overthrow me, right? You gotta savor the things that be in the Most High or that be of the Spirit, because the Most High is a spirit, as we read in Romans 8 earlier, right? Let's see what the Lord said in verse 24. Verse 24, then said Yahushua unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. So the Lord said you got to deny yourself. You got to know how to say no to yourself, man. You got to be able to deny yourself, right? And take up, and that's a burden to some people. But the Lord said, take off those burdens and follow him, because that's what the Lord did. The Lord didn't deal with women, man. Although he was a man, he probably wanted to, right? The Lord had emotions. The Lord had feelings. He had to deny those things, man. You don't think the Lord felt lust and temptation? What do you think was going on in Matthew the fourth chapter, man? What do you think was going on in Matthew chapter 27 when they was telling him to get off the cross if you be the Son of God? You don't think he wanted to do that, man? But the Lord denied those things so he can save us, man. So hey, guess what? You got to deny those things so you can save yourself and those that hear you. Let's go to 1 Timothy 4:13, because that's what the Lord said. If you do that, if you do these things, you're gonna save yourself and the people that hear you, just like the Lord did, man. You have to walk in the steps of the Lord. This First Timothy. It's the book of First Timothy, chapter 4, and verse 15. Get to the point. Meditate upon these things. Give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. All right. Take heed unto thyself. So the Lord said you have to beware of yourself. Take heed unto yourself and unto the doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee. So you're playing the same role and walking in the same steps of the Lord. Guess what? If you do these things, you're going to save yourself and those that hear you as well, by taking up your cross, denying yourself, savoring the things that be of God and not those that be of men, resisting pleasures. Those are the things that's going to get you to this kingdom, man. Right? And saving the people that's going to hear you. All right, let's get a few more, man. Let's go to Colossians 2 and 23. It's Colossians 2 and 23. And it says, which things have indeed a show of wisdom and will worship and humility and neglecting of the body. What does it mean to neglect something? All right, what does Esau mean when he says your child abuse? You're neglecting your child. Meaning you're not paying any attention to your child, right? You're not catering to your child, or you're not protecting so-called your child. Huh? When you neglect the body, that means you're not pleasing the body. You're not thinking about pleasing your flesh. You're neglecting it. You're actually doing the opposite, right? And it says, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. So you don't want to have any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. That's what neglecting the body means, man. All right, let's get another precept. Let's go to Romans 13 and 14. All right, this is Romans chapter 13 and 14. But put you on the Lord Yahweh Shah Mashiach and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. So provision means the action of providing. You don't want to make any action of providing for the flesh. You don't want to provide. You want to abstain from different from your different what's the word? I'm going to your different appetites, man. You want to abstain from your appetites, as it says in Sirach chapter 18 and 30, because those things will make you get a laughing stock amongst your enemies, right? You don't want to fulfill the lust thereof. Let me go to Sirach 18 and 30. All right, this is Sirach chapter 18 and verse 30. What does it say? Go not after thy lusts, but refrain thyself from thine appetites, man. So the Lord said, hold back yourself from your appetites. Don't go after your lust. Don't go after the things that make you feel good, right? And it says, they that were if thou givest thy soul unto the desires that please her, she will make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies that malign thee. And you gotta think about this on a spiritual level. If you keep giving yourself over to your desires, your demons that you're dealing with, they are laughing at you. They think it's funny that you keep falling because they were sent unto you to do a specific task, and they got that task accomplished. They want you to fall, but Yahushua doesn't want you to fall. He wants you to have power over your demons, as it tells you in Luke the 10th chapter, man, 17 on down. Have power over your demons. He gave you power over these demons, but some of y'all let y'all demons laugh at you, man. Right? Hey, some of us used to have those things as well, man. But we got to come out of these different things and know how to become men and women in this thing, and now have the rule over our spirits. All right, sorry, let's go to Proverbs 25 and 28. Because if you don't have rule over your spirit, you're like a city broken down without walls. All right, it's Proverbs chapter 25. It's Proverbs 25 and 28. He that have no rule over his own spirit is like a city that's broken down and without walls. So if you have no rule of your own spirit, the Lord said you're like a city that's broken down. No walls. That means your enemies is running up and down in you now. And that means you're a laughing stock because now you have no protection. Your enemies can come in whenever they want to. You have no protection. Meaning you have no your discipline is protection, man. That keeps rule over your spirit. Even on the physical level, Esau can't tempt you with certain things. Esau can't get you to do certain things. Look at our fathers that died for the name of the Lord. Right? Eleazar, second Maccabees, the sixth chapter, Antipas in Revelation chapter 2 and 13. You think they didn't try to get these men with carnal lust? They said, no, we resisting these pleasures. The seven sons that died in their mother, second Maccabees chapter 7 on down. Right? You can't regard yourself for the law's sake. So in these last days, we got to know how to just say no to our flesh. Don't please our flesh, man, and serve Yahweh Bashim Shah by saying no to ourselves and having discipline of our spirit. I'd like to give our praise to Yahweh Bashim Hamashiach Shah, right? And been a mighty strong shalom.